Our next speaker is Dr. Lisa Lake, Director of the Centre of Excellence in Sustainable Fashion and Textiles, and a sustainable fashion activist for more than 15 years. Please join me in welcoming Lisa.
Thanks, everyone. Hi. I have notes, and I don't want to use them, but I have them if I need them. No worries. Oh, yeah. Can it go back? Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. As mentioned, I'm Lisa Lake. I'm the director of the Center of Excellence, which is a partnership between UTS and TAFE New South Wales. And as we get started, I too want to acknowledge that we're meeting here on the land of the Gadigal people, and acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and of the owners of knowledge of this land, where we come and learn and to study every day, and take their, we do take a lot of their wisdom as we are rethinking or really remembering how to create clothes mindfully with country. Yeah, that's fine. Just anywhere up here is fine. Thanks, Lauren. So today I am here to talk about fashion activism and whether or not we think our wardrobes can change the world. So I'll tell you a bit of my personal story, a bit of my professional story, and share some really great innovations. But first, as we go, has anybody seen this picture? No? No? You have. Well, spoiler. I'm not going to let you spoil it. I'm going to do this. Does this work if I stand? Yeah, great. Thanks. What does it look like? Shout out just anything. Organized mess, op shop, a lot of mess, yes. And then if we followed up with this picture, which is from a company called Vintage in the UK, what comes to mind when you see these photographs? Excess, yes, consumption on display. Excellent. A lot of ties, a lot of hats, a lot of shirts. And I wonder how I can get this to play. Do you know? Oh, okay, let's watch this. Cool. There's a lot that could be said about that ad, but what I'm hoping we're taking away from that ad is just the sheer volume of clothing, synthetic or otherwise, that is kind of being thrown at us, hurled at us every day. So this garment represents 56 pieces of clothing, all stitched into one very, very heavy garment. It was created by my friends over at TAFE Fashion Design Studio a year ago, when actually it was 54 pieces, but then the stats changed to 56, and they added 2 garments. And 56 is the average number of garments each Australian is buying per year. So do you think you're buying 56 items? Probably. I mean, if you're in this room, you probably are not, but the statistics don't lie, I'm afraid. But even if you're not buying, 50, that didn't turn up. Anyway, that's supposed to be a 7, 5 to 7. even if you're not buying 56, I'm guessing most of us, myself included, have probably buying more than 5 to 7 new pieces of clothing per year. And really, 5 to 7 is the number we're meant to be consuming to stay within planetary boundaries. So climate, water, biodiversity, etc. And that's a really huge leap to go from 56 or even from 20 down to 5 to 7. And the reason is, we're producing so much, but we're producing more than ever before. So the industry is producing twice what it did 15 years ago, and it's continuing to ramp up as the likes of Shein and Temu and Amazon fashion, in quotation marks, have kind of changed the way that clothing is produced. And it leads to a whole lot of issues, whether it's microplastics, as that wool ad is indicating, or just dealing with all of this waste. And so we're here today to talk about individual action, and I could just say to you, stop buying clothes, but that's not very productive, and it doesn't inspire people to change. And as an activist who's been in this space for over 15 years, I also know it's quite limiting to focus just on you as an individual. And so we're really thinking about how can we move beyond ourselves, so that we're not just feeling good about the changes we're making, but we are actually moving that needle where we need to go. And I really, really believe that fashion is an important tool to do this, because nothing really captures the imagination like fashion. You can have the Met Gala, you can have images on a runway, you can have images that kind of enter our imagination all the time through fashion, and it can capture our attention, and we just need to figure out how to channel that kind of for good instead of towards waste. And so I love this image because it's really reminding us that, like, to get from individual change to systems change, we need to start working together. We need to interact with one another and move it away from, Lisa's going to buy fewer items this year and I'm going to feel really great about myself, to maybe all of us collectively are going to change the way we're thinking about building our wardrobes or consuming fashion, and how can we then use that energy to move even farther towards systems change. So why am I the person to talk about this anyway? I mean, I've got the fancy title, which sounds fancy, the director of this center, but before that I really was just an activist. I started paying attention to climate change back in 2009. I was in my late 20s. Inconvenient Truth came out. If you are as old as I am, you know that really did kind of rock the world for a moment. I was also finishing my master's at that time, where I was studying, among other things, I was studying cultural and behavior change. And so I used all that new energy and wrote this book called Sustainability with Style. That's my former name up on that book. And as a result of writing that book, I didn't intentionally do this, but what happened was you immediately bring the conversation to a wider group, because you've put this thing out in the world. You're doing interviews, you're going to markets, you're meeting bookshop owners. And as a result of that book, I met 3 other incredible sustainable fashion pioneers, and we put the first sustainable fashion show on Australian Fashion Week in 2014. So when I think about that, I think, oh my God, that was so long ago. And I'm still talking about fashion and sustainability. And has the needle changed? Has the needle moved? Of course it has, but there's so much work to be done. As that runway was coming together, I also embarked on my PhD, because I had learned very quickly that my individual action was not changing the volumes that the major retailers were ordering. Me not buying that dress wasn't going to stop David Jones from ordering that dress or ordering it in the quantities that it was. So I was already thinking, how can we work this into more of a systems change? And that's really what the PhD was about. Took a wee break, had a couple babies, did some general sustainability work, and then came back to work here at the Center of Excellence. This image is with a number of undergrad students, as well as a few teachers from UTS and from TAFE. So I guess what I want you to take away from this image is two things, especially if you're a young person thinking about how to, not even young, if you're at a transition, thinking about how you want to change the world. You know, things aren't linear, they go all over the place, and you just kind of don't know where your passion and interests are going to lead in this big problem of climate change, biodiversity, whatever kind of thing is grabbing your attention more than anything. But also, none of this happens on one's own. Like, I wrote the book on my own, but after that, everything becomes a collective activity. And this is how things start to change, is when we start talking to each other. We're humans. Like, we love interaction. We love to be social. So we need to use that kind of natural inclination to work together. Christina's not here, but I am going to quote Bill McKibben, who founded 350.org. I know she mentioned 350. Because a lot of people in the climate activist space talk about this, but as he said, the most important thing an individual can do is be somewhat less of an individual, join together with others in movements large enough to have some chance at changing those political and economic ground rules that keep us locked in our current path. So sometimes it's quite obvious, like when we're talking about super, that is huge. You do have it kind of feels a more direct path. You've got this huge potential. But it can be with food and with fashion as well. It's just about finding those others that are going to build that collective for us to start shifting the needle more. So now I will get more specific about what does this look like in the world of fashion, and I'll take it from both ends of the scale, on an individual side as well as what industry is doing and how we can kind of move things closer together. So at the individual, very basic individual level, is to create a curated mindful wardrobe. I mean, it sounds basic, but it is really this simple. If you're going to buy something, make sure it goes with things you own, make sure it fits your lifestyle. There's no point in buying the most sustainable t-shirt you can find if actually you have to wear a suit to work, or vice versa. So it's just about being so mindful about what we bring in and knowing you really don't need that much to kind of grow that wardrobe. I am not a stylist, but there's plenty of eco stylists out there who can help with that kind of thing. And a large part of many people's sustainable buying behaviors, of course, is vintage or secondhand or thrifting, which is huge, because if we can avoid the new thing being made, then we're saving all of that, all of those materials and emissions and water that went into making that garment. But what can often happen here, unfortunately, is the motivation to buy is financial rather than sustainable. And that's fine if we're getting the same end result. You might be thinking, well, that's fine. It doesn't matter why I'm buying secondhand if I'm buying secondhand. But unfortunately, some recent research out last year showed that people who buy secondhand fashion are also more likely to buy excessive fast fashion, because it is that financial attraction to the lower prices rather than the kind of sustainability benefits of the garment. So a lot of these things that I'm going to mention, they're great to do if it's going to offset buying that new thing. Because fashion should be fun. I love fashion. I love wearing it. I love playing with different looks. However, it's just about making sure when I am engaging in these sustainable patterns, consumption habits, that I'm not also buying the new thing because I saw it in Instagram or TikTok. Has anybody ever rented a garment? Yes? Yes? What did you rent it for? A wedding. Yeah, so good. I love renting clothes, especially for kind of special occasions. And I will show you a little bit later some research that my center has done with a rental company. But what we can say definitively is that, for that company anyway, it is better from a climate perspective to rent something if it's a special occasion garment, like something you're going to wear to a wedding or a special event. So you can offset the carbon emissions between 44 and 78% if you were renting a garment rather than buying something new. But again, that's only true if you're not buying something anyway. Like, a lot of people, as we're getting used to this new model of rental, will kind of buy the backup dress and rent the dress. as well, because we're a bit nervous. Not you. I like it. Not you. Um, there used to be a fashion rental company that would let you borrow a second dress for like $10. The prices have gone up dramatically, but that was huge because it meant you could kind of get two, and one of them was bound to work for your event. I digress, but rental is a really amazing option for those times when you need something special. Depop and eBay, then now we're like embracing technology a bit more. We start embracing technology with rental. We're doing it a bit more with resale, whether it's with Depop or eBay. This is a way that, again, we're also connecting with others. So we're starting to connect with others with rental. The research we did was with a peer-to-peer rental company. So that's people renting out their own wardrobe. Depop and eBay is the same. This is me finding a user for a garment that I own that is still in really good condition, but I don't wear it, or maybe it never fit in the first place, and so I'm selling it on. I'm getting a little money. I know the garment is actually going to find a second life, and it's going to continue carrying on. And these are really important because while we can, of course, donate garments to various charitable recyclers, they're getting too much. They're getting way too much of our stuff. So it's about kind of spreading out what we're doing with our unworn clothing. But interestingly, we're seeing that trend with fast fashion show up here as well in Depop and eBay. And a lot of the sellers and buyers are getting frustrated because they're finding more and more fast fashion on these sites. And the thing about fast fashion, it is cheap and it's poorly made. So it's not going to withstand this kind of sharing for too long. They still really only have kind of 10 wears in them before they fall apart. So again, just things to be wary of if you are looking around on these sites. And has anybody done a clothes swap? Yes. Yes, a very active audience. I love this. I love clothes swaps. I've hosted dozens, I'm sure, at this point at different unis and councils, different friend groups. Clothes Swap and Style is a brand of clothes swaps that's run by my pal, Nina Gabor. Sustainable Fashion World is pretty small, as you can imagine. We all know each other. And she also has a shop front in North Sydney, which is incredible. It was in Sydney CBD. Now there's one in North Sydney. Because what we do know, I found it in my own PhD research, and others have as well, we need to make these options really easily accessible, and not just financially accessible, but like the places where I'm going. So having a shop in Greenwood Plaza in North Sydney is amazing because so many people are commuting through Greenwood Plaza every day or having their lunch break there. So if they can pop in there at the same time they're looking at the new stores, we're starting to kind of get into the psyche of clothes. And again, you can see in a clothes swap, you're physically with other people. So we're building that collective base. Again, we're starting to build our circle out wider than ourselves. Right. So now a hard left turn here. This is what we're doing with industry. So this is through my work. I'm not selling you any short courses. Don't worry. I'm just showing you what's going on the other end of the spectrum. So while there's a lot of consumer activism in fashion space, there's a lot of industry activism that goes on that you wouldn't know about if you don't work in the industry. So for example, through my center alone, we offer a number of short courses to upskill the existing industry. Some of this is theoretical in terms of, why this stuff even matters, helping you write a sustainability strategy, and then others are very hands-on, practical. Here are some software tools, here's some natural dye techniques, here's some upcycling techniques, so that those already in industry can radically upskill. At the same time, we're feeding into the curriculum of both UTS and TAFE students so that anybody graduating now with a fashion degree just kind of has that baked in. As mentioned, we do research with industry. This report, you can download it on the website if you want, is with that rental company. And about it not only helped with the climate impact of the garments, but this business, which is a peer-to-peer model, is also creating these micro businesses all over Australia, many of them in regional parts of Australia where predominantly women are earning more than I earn, like earning very healthy salaries by knowing what rents well in the community. And not just the community, you can ship everywhere. But there's so many garments on this site now that and the website can kind of track which garment is closest to where you are to really manage down that carbon impact of shipping as well. Other research we're working on is establishing First Nations circular design principles with Indigenous fashion practitioners and our colleagues at Jumbunna, which is UTS's Indigenous Education and Research Division. High Tea with Mrs. Wu, I'm going to show you a quick video later, and then a future fashion skills report. So this is really like industry focused work to help people shift their business models. We do a lot of engagement and advocacy, a lot of events and talks, because we know that education comes in all different formats. Not everyone's going to enroll in a short course, but a lot of people will come to an event. They'll come and watch a film screening. They'll come and network with their peers and learn about one topic at a time. So we host a number of activities like that. And then separate to what my center does, I'm just going to give you a very quick snapshot of some amazing innovations happening primarily in Australia, actually, but you can imagine these are being amplified around the world. BlockTex, which is in that your left corner, they're an Australian innovator that has developed a system to separate cotton from polyester fiber. Up until this point, any mixed fibers in your garment were just shredded. If they were recycled, they were shredded and downcycled, really. And BlockTex has figured out a proprietary technology that separates into the base cellulose and PET materials, which means those materials can go back into the market in any form. They don't have to become new fiber, they can, but they can become anything that we're making PET with or cellulose with. Citizen Wolf, I'm guessing this crowd has heard of Citizen Wolf. Yes, our friends in Merrickville. They work with Oz Harvest, of course. But they really have been groundbreaking for, 10 years maybe? You can go onto their website, enter very few details about yourself, like your age and your weight, and their AI algorithm will get your magic fit t-shirt. They're 96% accurate in their sizing, which is amazing. So they only make, what I should have led with is they only make what they sell. So they are a true made-to-order business. They don't hold stock. You order what you want, and they will make it for you and deliver it to you. Circular Sourcing is another Australian innovator. They're fairly new, but they're giving excess textiles a life. So a company will buy so many rolls of fabric for this season's collections. Whatever's left at the end usually gets recycled, or maybe it gets sold on a quieter marketplace somewhere. Circular Sourcing has created an online digital platform for all of this and is working quite closely with a number of big name brands to get them to use these textiles. So again, that's reducing the amount of base textile that's made in the first place, and using what we have instead of recycling something that hasn't even had a first use. Seamless is Australia's national clothing product stewardship scheme. It's a tongue twister, but that they're asking brands to pay a levy into a fund that then will invest in R&D, will invest in sorting and recycling facilities, will invest in consumer campaigns around excess clothing consumption. And then Deakin is just, I don't have time to tell you everything Deakin's doing, but they've got an Institute for Frontier Materials that is really at the leading edge of creating all kinds of fibers and dyes that are better for the planet in a variety of different ways. Next, here we go. And then on fibers and fabrics specifically, I just brought a few to look at, and you're welcome to come and have a feel later. But fibers and fabrics are being made out of all kinds of materials, whether it's, in this image, we've got kombucha-based leather that's eating textile waste as its feedstock. We've got some fiber being made out of coffee parchment, which is usually a waste product from the coffee production process. Usually just gets thrown out or biodegraded. We have endlessly recyclable polyester from Samsara Eco, another Australian innovator. They're working with Lululemon now. New Era Bio is over at UNSW creating dyes out of completely bio materials, no synthetic chemicals involved. Ulu creates materials out of seaweed. We've got scientists at UTS creating fibers out of algae. So some of these up here have oyster shells, they have coffee grinds, they have pineapple fiber. So there's a lot of innovation going on. I don't think y'all need to worry about knowing what all of that means or how to look for it, but I just want you to know this is all happening behind the scenes, and you don't really know about it if you're not going to dig behind the surface. And it's just something that, I don't know, I hope gives you hope that like there's hundreds and thousands of people just in Australia alone who are really innovating the way that we make our clothes, design our clothes, sell our clothes, resell our clothes. Yes. Oh, so I'm going to show you. I wonder if I can skip once. Okay, I'll show you both. These are a couple quick videos from High Tea with Mrs. Wu, which is a small sustainable fashion brand based in Newcastle. They got a City of Sydney grant last year to work with Dempster, which again is an Australian innovator recycling system, and with us to use this fancy knit machine that we have in Australia. And she tells it way better than I would, so.
Hi, I'm Angela from High Tea with Mrs. Wu, based in Newcastle, Australia, and together with my two sisters, we have been making clothing for the last 20 years. And did you know that in a typical clothing factory, all of the textile offcuts get thrown directly into landfill? Now, we have been saving these textiles offcuts from landfill, collecting them, sorting by fibre and colour type, waiting and hoping for a solution in the future. And the future is now. We can
15
finally
years, they
convert
say.
these textile offcuts into fabric again.
Okay, Ange, what are we doing here? Where are we?
We're pretty excited. We're about to start our project called Zero Waste Garments from Zero Waste Yarn, and we're here to see the Shimaseki Cold Garment Knitting Machine. And this is all supported by the City of Sydney. So we're really, really thrilled to get this going.
So we've met Lisa Lake and Doris Lee, taking us to meet
Shima.
Shima.
Shimaseki.
Exciting new cold garment knitting machine. Hello, Shirley. Oh my goodness, yay.
Cool. We're looking at all the possibilities that this amazing machine can produce. Knit structures, different types of yarn, even like thick upholstery fabrics. I think it's just going to come down to our imagination. So we're looking at how these knit structures are designed for the program for the machine.
Sorry, I was just going to.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, I'm
Here we
Angela
are,
from High
friends.
Tea with Mrs.
We've
Wu,
been
based in
following our
Newcastle.
Go to the next slide. They were collecting those offcuts for 15 years, which is crazy. Like, really, they were just collecting their offcuts, hoping that there would be a solution. And what happens next is they go to Hong Kong to work with Dempster and the Billy system, which is this recycling that takes all those offcuts and chops them up tiny and then spins them into new yarn. And the color, they don't dye anything. The color is just the colors that they've collected them into. Yeah, thank you, we'll just stay on there. And then they're using that knit machine, which is in the building next door, to create garments. They basically come out all in one piece, so there's no waste whatsoever with this garment. It just comes straight out in one singular piece. And again, what I love there, you can see, like, they knew individually, they wanted to create a brand that made a difference. They didn't know what the solution was going to be, but they knew that that wasn't waste, it was a resource. Now there's technologies around, and they are reaching out into their kind of collectivity, their community. They know us, they know Dempster, they know different people to kind of work together to create this new possibility, and starting to change that system. So they're using their own waste to make their new garments, which then will be completely recyclable forever, really. And I'm sure my time is probably up, but I did want to leave you with this quote from one of my favorite feminist philosophers, if you don't mind, Audre Lorde. As she said, sometimes we're blessed with being able to choose the time and the arena and the manner of our revolution, but more usually we must do battle where we are standing. So I encourage all of you to do battle where you're standing, whether that's your wardrobe, your kitchen, your bank, your garage, your community, your classroom. Whether we like it or not, this is like the challenge of our time, and we're going to get so much farther if we just jump in and do it together. So thank you.